Okay. Get the party started here. So we got people rolling in. We've got Federico is here today. Happy Thursday. Janessa, Philip, Clay. Hey, Clay, how are you? Phyllis is here, my dear friend Phyllis. Philip. All right. Got Jesse's here. Kylie's here. All right. How's everybody doing? Happy Thursday. If you want to, drop your LinkedIn, website, whatever social media you have, drop it in the chat box. Let us know where you're coming from. Great opportunity to connect with people. And we're going to get started. You know what? We're going to get started right now. How's that? So, Julie, my friend, Julie Warner, where are you? Hey, there you are. You want to give a little kickoff?
Sure. First, thanks to Kurt and Holly for bringing this programming to us and to all of our clients and all of our friends. But for those of you who don't know Purdue MEP, there's a MEP center in every state of the US and Puerto Rico. And we're here to help manufacturers, help you with overcome any of your problems, whether it's something like growth services like this, where you need marketing assistance, or lean leadership training, Six Sigma, all the good stuff. We help with everything. So I will drop our LinkedIn page in at the chat, but feel free to get a hold of us. So thanks, Kurt and Holly.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Julie. Michelle's here today. Hey, Michelle. Happy Thursday to you. Thank you for joining us. So, all right, well, we'll dive in. My name is Kurt Anderson. What an absolute honor and privilege to be here today. Appreciate everybody taking time out of your busy schedule. And so we have a wonderful, fun-filled program. And just to kind of recap, I'm letting people in. So Julie, I'm not the best multitasker. Just ask my wife, but I'm multitasking right now. But we're going to get things rolling. So again, this is my privilege, and I just want to share as folks are pouring in, Julie, Michelle are here from the Purdue MEP. If you have not connected with the Purdue MEP, we strongly encourage you, invite you, welcome you to do so. They have just a wealth of resources. They are eating, drinking, breathing, sleeping, helping manufacturers throughout the great state, the wonderful Hoosier state, even though we're at Purdue, right? The wonderful state of Indiana. And so strongly encourage you to reach out. If you're coming to us from another state outside of Indiana, there is a manufacturing extension partnership near you. We strongly encourage you, welcome you, invite you to reach out to your local MEP. They just do such amazing work. So it is my honor and privilege. I want to introduce my bestie. We have just a powerhouse speaker today for you guys. Her name is Holly McCulley Job. She comes to us from the Keystone State. She's in the great state of Pennsylvania. Holly, happy Thursday. Thank you for joining us.
Happy Thursday, Kurt. Happy Thursday, Julie. It's nice to be here with all of you. I am in Pennsylvania, but it's been feeling like Florida these days. I don't know if anyone else is on the East Coast with all these heat waves, but it's like 95 degrees and 100% humidity, it feels like. We're not used to this over here, but I'm really excited to be here and take some time to talk about AI and content marketing with you guys. I'm super excited. So a little bit about me and why Kurt and Julie have asked me to be here with you guys today. So I am COO and partner at Protocolity Inc. We're an inbound marketing agency for manufacturing companies. I started as a content writing intern about 6.5 years ago. So living and breathing in the content space is all I've done for my career. And last October, I wrote a book called Inbound Immortal, The Undying Art of Attracting Customers. And that is a deep dive into all that is inbound marketing. My goal was to write a how-to guide for manufacturers on how to get started on an inbound marketing campaign if they've never done so before. So if you're intrigued by some of the stuff that you hear today, and anything in there seems like you want to deep dive further, that is a great place to do it. The shameless plugging is over. That's all I've got for that, I swear. And a little bit more about me. I have 2 cats. Their names are Wilson and Wasabi. They are shown here. They're incredibly misbehaved, and I'm in the office today so that they can't wreak havoc behind me from home. And my favorite band is Mount Joy, also from Pennsylvania and the East Coast. I don't know if anyone else enjoys them, but they're my absolute favorites. And just a little bit more about Protocolity and why I feel I'm a good fit to talk to you guys about AI. So we've got 30+ retainer clients, all in the manufacturing space, and we've got a team of 22 dedicated marketers who are helping those manufacturers day in and day out accomplish their marketing. And our team has had the challenge, privilege in the past year of experimenting with how to use AI technology to make our jobs more efficient, more effective, so that we can continue to deliver the most value possible. So that's really what I'm going to focus on today, is sharing those tips and tricks with you guys, so that if you don't have a team of 22 manufacturing marketers with you, you can do some of this to help improve your own efficiencies. And I'm here today with Kurt. Kurt, do you want to talk a little bit about our history together?
Sure. And, and Holly, again, I'm like the proud uncle, Julie, so I've had I'm not a young guy, and I know there's a little surprise there, right? So, but I've had the privilege, I've been working with the team at Protocol 80 since 2013. I was there when Holly joined the team about 6 years ago. And so again, she just wrote a book. It's a phenomenal book. As a matter of fact, I'm going to drop the book in the chat. Speaking of the chat, if you just joined us, I encourage you, I invite you, welcome you. If we were all in person, we'd be hopefully high-fiving, handing out business cards. I would encourage you. It's a great opportunity to drop your LinkedIn or drop your website. Let people know you're here. This was, Julie, I think a year ago, we had we did a case study with one of our Purdue clients. And actually, they picked up a new customer by coming to the webinar. So this is a great, treat this as a networking opportunity for everybody. So let's know what's going on. We'd also love to make this interactive. So, if you want to share where you're at on AI, what is AI intimidating, overwhelming, drop any questions. We want to make this super interactive. We would, we know how precious your time is. We'd like to have this as valuable as possible. We brought in a wonderful expert here with Holly. So yeah, Holly, I've had the privilege of working with your team at Protocol 80. When you guys started, I think you had 3 employees. I've had a front row seat, watch you grow to 22 employees, and just fierce advocates for U.S. manufacturers. That's all you focus on. So it's not like 1 minute you're working in retail or other industries. You're just very passionate about working with manufacturers. And so it's great having you here today, and keep the party rolling. What do you have next?
Heck yeah. So here's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to spend some time defining AI, because it's this big nebulous cloud. And so we're going to narrow our focus a little bit to where I believe is the most productive area for marketers to be focusing on harnessing AI right now, and then how to actually do that specifically for manufacturing companies in a niche technical space. We're going to talk about some helpful use cases, some ethical considerations, next steps after, I throw all this information at you, what to do with that. And then we will have time for a Q&A. As Kurt said, he'll be taking a look at the chat throughout. So if there's something you're like, hold on, Holly, I don't know if your 2nd grade teacher ever told you, but you talk kind of fast. Could we slow down and walk back through that again? Yes, I was told that and have been told that since. I will try and go slow through this, but if you want me to stop or rehash anything, we can absolutely talk through all of that. I will also say, as I mentioned earlier, I've got a team of marketers with me, and a lot of them are way smarter than I am. I'm just the person who was chosen to talk to you guys. So if there's a question I can't answer, I would love to pair you with one of our experts, one of our solutions developers, who may be a better bet at helping you solve a complex problem. Okay, so then some general disclaimers. Pretend this is in fine print, because that's where it would be if we were entering a contract together for this ride today. I'm a marketer, not a computer scientist. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is from the lens of how to use these technologies for marketing. I'm not going to get super deep into the coding, how it works, the most optimal ways to harness it on the most technical level, just the ways that we found are practical in helping marketers save time. Information on AI is changing literally daily. So it's really important to seek out resources that are talking about this kind of thing, not just attend this today and not revisit it again for a while. Just because the new updates are coming out so rapidly, it's important to stay on top of. My number one recommendation, if you are super into AI and into marketing and you want to be on the cutting edge, is the Marketing Against the Grain podcast. That's with Kit Bodner and Kieran Flanagan of HubSpot and of Zapier. And they do a great job. My colleague Josh and I listen to this every single week, and we nerd out about all of their theories. So that's a great space to just get your daily dose of AI, or weekly rather. And everything here is comprised of my informed opinion. So different agencies, different marketers, different organizations are trying to tackle AI in the best ways that we can. So what I have here is what we've comprised, the best tips and tricks for our agency. I know that they're working because I've seen them work for our team and our clients in real time, but it's totally okay to disagree with me. If you see something that you might be doing differently that's working, let's talk about it in the chat. If you found a different resource, I've tried to tackle this and get it into an hour session as best we can, but I'm certainly not the only authority in this space, just one of the people trying to help give you some tips. And with that being said, we're going to focus on content marketing best practices that align with inbound marketing and modern SEO. So inbound marketing, if that term is new to anybody, is the idea of providing helpful content and resources on your website to attract your customers to you. So the analogy I like to use sometimes is old school sales can feel very much like that guy in the mall chasing you down, trying to rub lotion on you from a kiosk. The goal of inbound marketing is to be producing information, if you're a lotion selling company, to tell people why they should be using lotion on their skin instead of oil or something else, and pulling them to you rather than bothering them where they don't want to be. So in the vein of creating helpful content, whether that be social media, paid ads, blog posts, podcasts, videos, everything that lives under the umbrella of content, today's session will be focused on harnessing AI and the best way to use it if you're in the manufacturing space. Okay, so that was the fine print. Let's talk about how we're defining AI. Here's some important terms to know today. There's no pop quiz at the end. We don't have to memorize these. And like I said, I'm not a computer scientist, so I only have a very fundamental understanding of these as well. So the first one being artificial intelligence, AI itself. Simply, that's the field of computer science that empowers machines to emulate human-like learning, decision-making, and reasoning achieved through advanced algorithms and electronic circuitry. So that is just what is fueling the AI to give you what you want is computer science, it's data, and it's trained on humans and human behavior. The algorithm, I'm sure if I could see you all and I said, raise your hands if you've heard about the algorithm, whether it be Google algorithm, Facebook algorithm, right? Like we are haunted as marketers by these algorithms. Put simply, all an algorithm is the step-by-step set of instructions that computer, software, program technology is following to perform a task. And as humans, we don't necessarily get a rule book to those algorithms. So Google doesn't tell us, here, marketers, do exactly this to follow my algorithm. We're left kind of guessing. AIs, like a ChatGPT, that kind of thing, they follow an algorithm as well, that precise set of instructions. So there's a good way to use these tools that work with their algorithm instead of against it. Generative AI is the field of AI that's been getting a lot of buzz lately if you're in the marketing space, the SEO, the content marketing space. So generative AI is the kind of AI that creates new content on its own without needing explicit human instructions with a focus on creativity. So under that umbrella, the most popular one we've seen is ChatGPT. So we're going to focus a lot on ChatGPT today, although there are a ton of generative AIs, LLMs, large language models like ChatGPT that could be used for this. ChatGPT is just the most popular in general, so they'll be kind of my scapegoat in my general example for today's purposes, also because it's free. So ChatGPT is just a type of language model-based AI. It's called GPT because it uses generative pre-trained transformer architecture and is trained on generating human-like responses based on what it receives. So it falls into the broader category of natural language processing and conversational AI, and its primary function is to provide text-based responses in a conversational manner. I swear, this is the most boring and technical we're going to get. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page going into this, because when this all started coming out, I didn't know what the heck any of this was. So I want to assume at least a couple of you out there don't know either yet. And machine learning is the way a computer learns from data and makes decisions without being explicitly told what to do. And then deep learning is the type of machine learning where artificial neural networks with many layers are used to find patterns and information within the data. It's great for recognizing images, understanding speech, and working with language. So understanding fundamentally what ChatGPT is, I think, is an important stepping stone to understanding how we use it. So knowing that it is just a machine that is trained on a certain set of rules and is made to emulate humans will help remind us of some of the important things as we get into using it. So some more parameters. These tips are meant to be accessible and user-friendly. So using free tools like ChatGPT, there are millions of AI tools, agents, assistants out there right now, some specific to sales, some specific to competitor research. We're going to keep this super general, tips you could walk away with today and use right now with ChatGPT. And we kind of talked about this stuff earlier, so they're focused on written content efficiencies, and AI is around us all the time, and we don't even know it. So we're going to talk about the best way to harness that. So I'm sure if you've been in the marketing space for a while, you've heard AI is totally replacing content writers, right? I mean, I know I've heard that. Kurt, have you heard that floating around in the marketing space?
I hear all sorts of different things. So I think everybody's all over the board, right, Julie? It's I think some people are afraid of it, some people are embracing it, some people are finding it for a shortcut. So I do a little LinkedIn live show. I'd love to connect with everybody here on LinkedIn. And what we do is every week, Holly was just a guest last week. Julie's been on the show. So we bring in subject matter experts, and we've been bringing in a number of AI individuals that are experts in the field. And it really is mind blowing of the efficiencies that can be captured. So again, when we dispel the myth and we look at every technology for hundreds of years, when cars first came out, everybody's like, what are we going to do with our horses, right? How on earth, what happened to our blacksmith, right? So I think if we just embrace it, and that's our point today, Holly, how do we create it as just a viable, valuable tool to make our lives better, more efficient, more productive, right?
Kurt, that was a perfect segue. It's like we're totally in sync. So generative AI is not going to replace content marketers or marketers in general or salespeople. Here are some analogies from some amazing thinkers in the AI space who are a bazillion times smarter than me and whose courses I took to inform my understanding of AI. So Ann Hanley of Marketing Profs says, generative AI is like a microwave. So at least at this point in time, generative AI is not capable of thinking of any new ideas or thoughts or concepts because generative AI is like a librarian who's read every book and memorized it. So in terms of what they've learned on, what AIs are trained on, it's what we've produced so far. So our books, our Reddit threads, our Twitters, our blogs, all of that stuff is what's been fed to AI. So while there is tons and tons of research and promising things coming out about how AI may have the capability at some point in time to do things like maybe find the cure for cancer and come up with new ideas by finding patterns that humans aren't capable of, fundamentally, for the most part, things like ChatGPT are taking what they already know from humans and reconstituting it to give you maybe a new creative idea, but mostly stuff that's based on what humans have done so far. A wing person to help with brainstorming and ideation, a utility player to make technical edits and accomplish menial tasks, and a fairy godmother to simplify complex research and help generate subject lines. Again, thinking exclusively in the realm of content production and that sort of thing. Also, something I thought was interesting as I was putting together this session, of course, about technology in the future, and we don't have a microwave emoji, which feels very behind. I just was like, I have to go with this bowl of soup, which looks lovely, but it's not a microwave. Anyway, so here's why I say that I don't believe generative AI will replace or can be like a content marketer, especially a content marketer in the manufacturing space. The first and foremost one being that AI does not have to give you accurate information. I don't know if anyone has seen the Google results that AI has been coming up with lately, but I've seen tons of examples online of people Googling, how should I thicken my pizza sauce? And AI being like, have you tried Elmer's glue? And things like that, AI does not have to give you accurate information. And that's a little silly and a little funny when we talk about, all of those different suggested results in Google, but it's not so funny when you're looking to create a technical piece of content. And maybe as a marketer, you don't understand the deep dive into the technology in the same way that the engineers at your company do. So you, prompt AI to give you a blog post about different specifications based on, let's say, different stainless steel grades, and AI might be giving you false information and you're not checking that. You don't have the knowledge to know that. So then you put that on a blog and your company doesn't look so hot. It looks like you don't know the differences, even though your engineers do, your product development team does, your manufacturing team does. You as a marketer just might not be as familiar with that. So this has some really, really big implications the more technical spaces we get. AI does not have to be accurate. And we've even had some fun, and it's not fun, it's a little dark, but experimenting with ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all the different AIs, prompting them with the same questions and seeing what they spit back out, and it being different across different AIs and not accurate. That's pretty scary when we think about replacing marketers or replacing all of our human written content with AI written content. cannot think, be creative, present new ideas. This is something that there is certainly, I welcome pushback on, because how you define new, how you define creative kind of depends on each individual person. But I will say in the blogs that I've seen, when it comes to creativity, when it comes to genuine humor, our content writers are still just going to be smarter and funnier than the AI is, at least at this point in time. Doesn't understand nuances and slang. So again, this is funny in the space of, you know, sipping the tea, if you want to say that for, you know, what the Gen Zs say instead of gossip. Maybe AI is not able to pick up on that. But again, if there's a common slang term, a common shorthand in your industry, AI might not be able to pick up on that either and be giving you misinformed result, or at least lead to a frustrating user experience. It does not and cannot cite sources accurately. It gets a little better at this every day, week, month that passes. But it's still not great at it. If you have ChatGPT generate you a blog and you ask, where did you get the information for this? It will give you some websites, but it certainly isn't going to be the holistic overview of where it got all of its information from. Like we said before, think of it as a librarian that's read every book in the library, or even think of it like you. If I asked you, Kurt, do you remember the first time you learned the difference between a book and a novel? You're not necessarily going to be able to cite your source for exactly what that was, or when you learn to conceptualize what the color blue was. It's almost to a point impossible for AI to figure out exactly where they got all of this information. Again, I underscore this here because it doesn't have to give you accurate information. And to me, that is a very important shortcoming, especially if you're going to try and utilize AI without any type of technical copywriter going through what it's producing. It doesn't perform well with complex subject matter. We'll touch on that in a little bit. And it's kind of a nothing burger. This quote comes from one of our senior content writers. He said this when experimenting with it, and I've found the same. And anyone who's maybe tried to generate a blog post or something like that using ChatGPT might have seen this as well. It's really great at giving you all these like super sexy analogies and metaphors and adjectives. But when you read through it, you're like, okay, but what did this blog help me with? What problem did it solve? There's like 3 sentences in there that are this big, that are maybe genuinely helpful. And then it's filled with all these adjectives you haven't heard of since your 6th grade spelling test. And that can be helpful to get you unstuck, maybe to get you moving if you've had some writer's block, but ultimately isn't going to produce the best article for your soulmate, for your persona, for the person that you're trying to help online. So I just kind of spent the last, I don't know how many minutes, 6, 7, sort of poo-pooing AI, and that's not what we're here for. Those are just some general tips and ideas when we talk about the idea of a total replacement of marketers. So let's talk about how AI can help marketers. So I'm going to give you guys a whole list of specific use cases later on as well. But here's some general, really high-level use cases where AI, something like a generative AI tool, can be super helpful to speed marketers along. So analyzing chunks of text that you input for tone, meaning, context, missing information, and more. So putting something into a ChatGPT and saying, okay, if I was to be an engineer reading this guide, what would my questions be next? And having ChatGPT tell you 3 things that the guide didn't cover, and then that can inform how you should continue to work off of that piece of text. Or saying, hey, I just wrote this blog. Does it accidentally come across as condescending? Having ChatGPT check your tone can be something really great. Helping you create derivative works of your own works. So like Kurt mentioned, I recently wrote a book, and writing a book is time consuming and not very easy, especially when you don't leverage AI and you write it from the heart. But what I did was I worked with ChatGPT to create derivative works of that book to place on the Protocol80 blog. So saying, using only the text in chapter 1 of this book, create a 350-word blog post about this. I know AI is using my own words, my own work to just kind of reformulate, reconstitute it, maybe a little bit like a microwave, and give me a blog post, and then I don't have to spend time figuring out, now how do I read through this and figure out how to distill this down? I also know from an ethics concern perspective, I'm the person who wrote the blog, I'm the person working with the GPT, I can gauge whether or not they've pulled in completely inaccurate information from a different source, or if it did a true good job of just creating a derivative work. A brainstorm and research assistant, there's an asterisk here because again, ChatGPT does not have to give you accurate information, but it certainly can be really helpful getting started. So throwing stuff at the wall, using it as a non-human brainstorm tool, a lot of times when you're stuck, just having something or someone else there to prompt you, even if they're giving you a bad idea, can get you unstuck. Rephrasing or rewriting your work to accomplish a goal, proofreading your work in a specific style, short form text generation like meta descriptions and email subject lines, and image and program generation as an iterative work. Again, something that's really important here is having a lot of the human component there and not just generating things from the clear blue sky, taking it and putting it somewhere. So let's talk about long form content. So you've heard me say a little bit now not to just take a blog post and plop it on your website from ChatGPT. And why is that? How come? Because we've heard for a long time that Google wants you to be publishing, Google wants you to be producing. And if you're a solo marketer, if you're the only person at your manufacturing company who has the time to do any marketing, it can be really tempting to be like, well, something is better than nothing, right? Kind of. So eat. What is it you said on Friday, Kurt, when it came to eat? You had a great phrase there. What was it?
Well, that was actually my co-host, Damon, has come up with a hysterical line. He calls it the Google Eats bucket of love. How about that let's pop quiz, Julie. So everybody jot that one down, right? We're going to have a pop quiz at the end. The Google Eats bucket of love. And so, Holly, why don't you explain to everybody what is, and it's lunchtime, so everybody's probably a little hungry, but what are Google Eats?
So Google Eat is what's used by the Google quality raters to determine whether or not a piece of content is good and worthy of serving up to Google's audience. Because remember, above all else, what Google wants to show in the search engine's results page is stuff that people are clicking on, spending time on, and finding answers to their solution. Because if Google was constantly serving you up poor fit results, you're gonna try Bing or DuckDuckGo or something else. That's Google's logic anyway. So what Google is looking at pieces of content to meet are these four things: experience, expertise, authority, and trust, EAT for short. So it's really important that every single piece of content that you're publishing, whether it be a video, a podcast, a blog, an article, a website page, anything that you want your persona, your soulmate, your customer to find, it's really important that you can say with a high degree of confidence that it is showcasing experience, showcasing expertise, projecting authority, and instilling trust. And the problem sometimes with lots of generated blog content from something like a ChatGPT is that can start to fall apart in a couple of these core areas. So if we tackle experience, if you haven't been blogging before, and then all of a sudden you take to your blog and you're pumping out 5, 6 blog posts a day, a week, and they're kind of those nothing burgers. They're not looking so hot. Google looks at that and says, I know that there wasn't an engineer writing those blog posts, because in several different signals that Google is using, it's just not checking the boxes, right? And same with expertise. So what we've seen is so important now more than ever is that the person producing your content has other social signals that they're giving Google that links all of that together online and proves that there's a person behind it. So even if you're marketer Mary writing for engineer Elizabeth, it's important that engineer Elizabeth has a LinkedIn presence where she's sharing these articles, has a podcast where she's talking about some of these things, and sending those signals to Google that says engineer Elizabeth is a real person. Here's her author bio. She's writing a technical blog once a week. All of those things, it seems really silly and it feels like overkill, but these are the type of things that are separating that truly good, helpful content from some of that spammy content. And as Google continues to roll out their algorithm updates, this more than ever is what they're focusing on to improve those high quality results. Authority and trust are really similar. All of these things kind of play in the same space. Basically, is a real person writing this? Is it helpful? When I arrive on the website, is it thorough? Is it detailed? Does it seem like someone went in and generated an entire website's worth of content? Or does it seem like someone really thoughtfully tried to help solve people's problems and produce good content? Now more than ever, that is what Google is looking at. So what's really important here is I'm not saying you can never, ever generate long form articles using something like ChatGPT. What I'm saying is it shouldn't necessarily feel easy. It should take some serious massaging and consideration from whoever that content writer is, whoever that marketing person is. So there should be a detailed outline and research that you're feeding to it. So you have a good idea of what you want to tackle in this blog, what keywords you want to use, what you want to talk about, what problems you're solving. It goes a lot further than just a quick prompt generation. It should be a really long outline that you're providing GPT with. and basically asking them to just loop some of those threads together into words. A comprehensive prompt generation. We're going to talk about prompt generation a little bit. And then also some thorough editing, because what's really important is that it looks, feels, and is created with that human influence, especially in B2B technical spaces. A little more on this. This is by Christopher Penn, who's a chief data scientist at trustinsights.ai, a big thought leader in the space of AI. This is his graphic. I attended a session of his, and I thought he put this in one of the most wonderful ways I've ever seen in terms of using AI specific to niche B2B spaces, industrial, manufacturing spaces. So what we've got here on these different axes is commodity and generic versus creative and expert for types of content / industry you're in, and then writing and generation versus editing and comparison. So in the commodity and generic space, generating a blog post, generating a long form content, you're probably going to get something that's okay. It might be a little bit of a nothing burger, but you're going to get something that's still going to somewhat work. So if you're trying to generate, what are the 10 use cases for toothpaste? Write me an in-depth blog about that. ChatGPT is going to do okay. Why? Because ChatGPT has a lot of information about toothpaste from the world as a whole. It's a commodity. It's fairly generic. They might flub here and there. They might use so many adjectives that just makes you cringe, and you're like, okay, I've got to take some of those out. But for the most part, they're going to create a decent blog that you can work with. And then same thing, if you're asking ChatGPT to edit a blog or provide you a brainstorm or a summary of something about toothpaste, again, that is a perfect use for GPT. They're going to do a really good job of that, distilling that down into a form that you can use. Moving into the niche, the creative, the technical, if you are looking for something in that space to edit, to synthesize, to summarize a more technical document, that's also a pretty good use of ChatGPT. They're going to be able to put it in human terms. There might be some inaccuracies here and there, but if you're using it to generally help you along and save you time, you should get a pretty good result from that. But if you're trying to generate creative or expert content using ChatGPT, that's where you're going to run into an issue with quality, with authority, generally with what people are looking for and search engines are looking for. So this is a really great, in my opinion, this is a great illustration of where effort is and where the results are when using GPT in these different ways. Kurt, this feels like a good point to pause on. Do you have anything you'd like to add, or questions that have come up, or anything that you wanted to touch on before we go into some more use cases?
Yeah, this is fantastic. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, ready, Julie, Michelle, let's smile so everybody takes a screenshot, right? Okay, so get a screenshot of that, number one. Number two, somebody asked about slides. We won't be sending out slides, but we will have the replay. And then let me just say this shamelessly. Holly is dropping just such, I'm taking tons of notes, Holly. This is just phenomenal. Julie, what I'm going to do is shamelessly, I'm going to drop in the chat box is my website. And so we do these little fun jam sessions every month. And so we've covered a lot of topics that Holly's hitting on right now, where we bring in other subject matter experts. If you go to my website, the link is in there. It's B2B Tail, and just in a search box, just type Purdue. Just type out Purdue, and you'll see all the webinars that we've done. We've archived all of them. We have LinkedIn experts. Last month, we did a session on doing LinkedIn Lives and how that can be AI. So every month we're doing different topics, and Holly was back here in February covering a wonderful topic. So we have a lot of programs here. So there was a question about slides. We will send a replay, Julie, probably like Monday-ish or so. So that will go out. To Holly's point here, one thing that I would love to share, a tagline that we are using shamelessly with anybody and everybody that will listen, is a line: how do you out-teach the competition? How do you out-teach the competition? So Holly, we did a live workshop for one of the at a New York MEP last month, and somebody said, well, how do you come up with your topics? I narrowed it down to this. I want to know, she used the word soulmate. Who's that ideal customer, right? How do I know? First, I want to know who am I speaking to? And number two, if this is my North Star, how do I help that ideal customer? How do I help that soulmate? So if I just strive to out-teach the competition and I'm always in my mind, all right, how can I help my ideal customer? That's such a winning formula. And then tied in with what Holly's describing here, you're going to just absolutely crush it. Holly, keep the party rolling, please.
Awesome. Thank you, Kurt. So I'm sure some of you are thinking right now though, but like, how do you do it, Holly? Okay, I know I'm not supposed to generate blog posts. You've given me some ideas, but like literally how, if I've never worked with ChatGPT before, how do I arrive there and work with this in a way that is actually helpful for me? So what you need to get really good at is prompt generation. And this was generated by ChatGPT. I'm not going to read it, but essentially what prompt generation is the art of creating a specific input that's an instruction or a question into the GPT so that you're getting a contextually relevant response that you want. The better you get at this, the better your results are going to be. So here's some general prompts. So these are kind of 5 ways, like really simple, easy ways to start to work with GPT. The first one being a simple command. So telling the AI to do something specific. This is going to sound silly, but I'm sure I'm not the only person who toils over sending stupid little emails to my coworkers or my clients about stuff like an email to take PTO. I'm always like, okay, let me take out 5 exclamation points and put a period there. Should I do a smiley face? Should I do no smiley face? And I can't tell you how many hours over the course of my 6.5-year career I would have saved if I just go to ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, tell my boss that I'm sick and write it in a way that's professional but friendly. Bam. Little stuff like that does make a difference. And a simple command like that is a great way to start to get your feet wet if you don't want to start playing with the super technical stuff yet. So a partner prompt, this is super fun when you know you're going to go back and forth a little bit. So this is one, suggest 5 ideas for a blog post about stainless steel and marine applications that's unique. Do I recommend taking that and being like, there is my content map for Q3. I'm going to do no other research. I'm not going to look into anything else. No. But do I think this is a really great place to get started and kickstart some of that research? I absolutely do, especially if you're just sitting there like, God, I need another cup of coffee. My DoorDasher isn't going to be here for 20 minutes. Let me just start to bounce some ideas around. Text analysis. So providing copy for the AI to look at and respond to. So again, a great example of this is read this email and analyze the tone. Another really great thing is if you are producing technical content, asking the AI what reader level, what level of expertise this is at, to make sure that if you're trying to tackle or target a certain persona, a certain soulmate who maybe is a little bit more in the awareness stage, they need a little bit more education, you're not playing in a field so far above their heads, they're not even going to know how to read through this article. That's a great example of that. Text revision. So read this copy and rewrite it in the style of a press release. Again, that's kind of something that's generating content, sure, but it's fairly low-hanging fruit, not pretty technical. It doesn't necessarily need someone toiling hours over a press release to announce that you were given a community award. If that's something you're not currently writing press releases about, here's a really quick, good way to get an article up about that. That again, low-hanging fruit, not technical. You don't have to worry too much about all of the stuff we talked about earlier with long-form content. Derivative work generation. We talked about the example earlier about writing a book and then using ChatGPT to help you get derivative works of that. But also if you have existing articles and you're like, God, I need to up my social presence, but sitting here writing a million LinkedIn posts, who has the time? Feeding that blog to ChatGPT and asking it to write LinkedIn posts for you. Again, you're using this in a generative way, but lower hanging fruit. You don't have that worry about like, am I plagiarizing something on accident because chat gave me something and can't give me a source? Is this a technical piece of information that's factually incorrect? When you're working with a LinkedIn post, the bar is just a lot lower than it is for an in-depth article or a website page or a white paper or something along those sorts. And so when we get into prompt generation, the more specific your prompt, the better your results. So an example of this would be you're an engineer at a roll forming company who's providing a resource on different materials in their application considerations to a manufacturing engineer at an OEM. Provide 6 ideas for FAQs to touch on this in a resource. You're not asking it to write the blog, but you're asking it to come up with those frequently asked questions. And for a librarian who scoured the whole internet, they're probably going to be fairly decent at giving you some FAQs. So this is also where I would say a screenshot. Feel free to take it. I think this is probably helpful as well. This is, again, just some more examples of real life use cases. So another great one for anyone who's working on marketing in the manufacturing space, but maybe isn't the most technical engineering manufacturing minded yourself, helping translate complex technical documents into readable English, not proprietary ones. We're going to get into this a little bit with ethical concerns. But if you just have a sheet that is incredibly technical and you know it's not proprietary, but you're like, what does this mean? This feels like German. Instead of spending hours on Google typing in every individual word, having ChatGPT kind of translate that for you and just get you started. is a great helpful thing. Generating a fleet of social media posts across multiple platforms. So this is really important to provide some human element to get GPT on the right course. So again, letting them know who you are, what you want the tone to be, providing some examples of social posts from your brand in the past that you really liked, and having them type those out can be really, really helpful. Suggesting topic ideas, punching up small copy using prompts like rewrite this to make it more interesting. If you are stumped and you've written a paragraph and you're like, God, this is dry, I really think I could improve on this, have ChatGPT go for it. And sometimes with prompts like this, what we've found can be really helpful is ChatGPT might also give you a really bad idea, but it'll get you unstuck. Another one that's down here is generating fluff text like intros and conclusions for human written blog articles. Most people producing content know it's easier to start in the middle, whether it's a website page, a white paper, a blog post, doesn't matter. Sometimes it's easier to just get your thoughts out. And again, if all the technical information is there, the important stuff is there, have ChatGPT generate the intro. And if they generate something that totally stinks out loud, and you rewrite it, well, did that save you time than sitting there toiling over how to write the intro by yourself? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's easier to be an editor than it is to be a writer. We talked about generating smaller works. Grammar and syntax assistance. There's also AI-powered tools like Grammarly to download right onto your computer that can help with that. But it doesn't hurt if you have a presentation or anything to just send it through ChatGPT and ask it to check for grammar, for syntax, for that kind of thing. Rewriting frustrated emails to be in a different tone. Maybe this is just very personal to me, but sometimes I write something and I'm like, I know that didn't come out how I wanted it to. ChatGPT, will you make me sound a little friendlier today? Generating PPC ad headlines based on human written copy. Again, when you're creating PPC campaigns, and some of this is more native into Google Ads now, so a little bit of this we're seeing come right into the tool. But if you write 6 and have ChatGPT generate another 10, that can be a super helpful way, because you have to write so many iterations of ad headlines and meta descriptions that any normal human is like bouncing their head against the wall trying to think of a million different ways to rephrase something within 35 characters. Perfect use case for ChatGPT. Formatting text and data into tables for inclusion in a written piece. If you are publishing something that's just a wall of text, is there a way that it could be a table or a graphic or a visual? GPT is great for that. Transcribing video and audio podcast content and then turning it into an article. Again, you have a source there that was created by you, so you're not running into as many of those areas and issues with inaccuracies and things. And also turning an article into a script for a podcast and short video. This is another session entirely, but video, live streaming, podcasting content, like we talked about earlier, when it comes to eats, when it comes to giving those signals of trust, when it comes to giving all of that, having those channels in addition to your written channels helps project that authority. And if you have a bank of written content and you're like, Holly, I've spent literally 10 years writing all this content and now you're telling me to do video, make it a little easier on yourself by turning some of those blogs into scripts and making it easy for someone on your team to film a video about it. Okay, really quick on ethical considerations. I'm not a lawyer, so this is not legal advice. These are just the things that we've had to think of at our company as we've been deploying ChatGPT, so things I would like you to keep in mind as well. Public AI is using the content you put into it to make it smarter. Do not put in any proprietary information or any information you wouldn't want a competitor to see. So if you're taking something like that and distilling it into blog content, it's going to be best to just do that on your own, take out the proprietary information, put out into the public what you're comfortable doing. Never, ever, ever, ever put anything in there that you wouldn't want someone else to see, because it's training its models on what you put into it. Allegedly, private AIs that you pay for, aren't doing this. I say allegedly because for me, for my company, for us, I would still not do that with any AI, public or private. Anything that's important to us is not going into an AI, period. Just my advice. Take it with what you will. Legislation is coming out constantly about generative AI use. Keep an eye on it. A lot of this so far has been in the creative media space with images and books and music and things like that. So just keep an eye on it and what it looks like and how that's changing. AI generated content cannot be copyright protected, and the rules around this are super unclear. So when I say they're super unclear, it's not clear how strict AI generated is. Is it, did you use an AI to help you with it? Did an AI write the whole thing? Did you write 30% and the AI write 70%? This is a super big gray area. So just something to keep in mind. Again, I'm not really qualified to give you advice on that, but just something worth noting. Plagiarism is a real thing, and ChatGPT doesn't care about it, but you should. So there's nothing stopping ChatGPT from generating a blog post for you and half of it being straight up ripped from somewhere else. Literally nothing stopping ChatGPT from doing that. So just be careful about that. If you're going to generate something more long form, something a little bit more high stakes, keep that in mind, because you're going to be the person that faces the consequences, not ChatGPT. And it's best practice to just never just take what you get from AI and dump it somewhere else. Some examples of this are sometimes AI will give you placeholder texts and say like company name. And if you're moving too quickly and you're just taking that and posting that on Facebook, now you have a Facebook post that says, here at company name, ugh. So you want to make sure you're always proofreading it and always giving that extra level of human attention there. And also AI has proven discriminative bias. This may or may not come up based on the content that you're producing for your industry. I mean, it's going to come up for everybody, but how relevant it is for you based on your content is sort of dependent on the work that you're doing. But remember, AI was trained on humans. A lot of times we have this tendency to think of AI as being better than humans or infallible or more accurate. And that's not true. And just like it has all of our information, it also has all of our yuckiness, racism, sexism, stuff like that. So it's just really important to remember that AI is not above us. It's right down there with us in the muck of all that is humanity. And if you insist on using AI to generate full articles or technical long form content, not based on any original work, if you're like, Holly, I've heard your session, and I still want to generate blogs anyway for my company, I think that's awesome. You do you, but I will insist you find a way to fact check and plagiarize check it so that you are not getting yourself into a situation that ChatGPT put you in. So with that being said, some next steps. Talk to the powers that be at your company for the comfort level with AI use. So arm yourself with the latest legal info. Talk to who needs to be talked to before you just run wild utilizing AI. Begin building a prompt library to help you and your team members save time. So if you're not a solo marketer, you're working with others and you've found a really good way to get high quality, well-phrased LinkedIn posts out of ChatGPT, save that somewhere. So if there's a preamble that's like, you are an engineer at da-da-da, you know what I mean? You have that already saved and you can copy and paste it, make yourself quicker. Utilize AI tools that help you and don't just clunk up your process. This is something that as we've had team members testing different elements of AI and things, we've found that, and then looking at how long did it take before, how long does it take with AI? Sometimes we have a tendency to think because we're using AI, we might be moving more efficient or more quality or more quickly. And sometimes that isn't true. It can just be downright cool to play with AI. So it's really important to be conscious of where you're gaining versus losing time. Test, fail, try again, test again, and save some time, start to master it. Just play with it, mess around, have it phrase the email to put in your PTO, have it, write a text to your wife if, she forgot to put the cap on the milk again and then you shook it and it got milk all over the kitchen. My husband had to do that this morning. I don't know that he used ChatGPT, but maybe. And then try out some of the prompt ideas given here and explore people who are smarter than me. Like Kurt said, he has a ton of AI experts come talk about stuff like this all the time and do deep dives. So seek out those resources and figure out from today forward what it looks like for you, for your company. What are the best ways to take advantage of it and use it? Because it's not supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be helpful above all else. So figuring out where it can be the most helpful for you will be crucial in the coming months. And that's all I had. And it was a lot, I know. So are there any questions? Kurt, anything on your mind?
Man, Julie, how about a round of applause for Holly just absolutely hitting the ball out of the park, man. It's full-fledged baseball season. That was a grand slam right there. I guess for anybody out there, Holly, if you don't mind, why don't you go back to those two particular slides and why don't we just, in case they missed it, that's a great opportunity for a little screenshot right there. Yep, that one right there. So if you didn't get a screenshot, opportunity, capture a screenshot. These are phenomenal suggestions right here. And then how about in 2 more seconds, why don't you go back one more slide and just to let everybody, go back.
Sorry.
Yeah. One more, that one right there, the prompts. Yeah. I think that's a great slide right there. So if you didn't get a chance strongly encourage you. How about smiles? Julie, you got a big smile there, right? Look at that. Look at those pearly whites. So that's two great slides. We encourage anybody, everybody. First off, thank you guys for joining us here today. We're not going anywhere. We're wrapping up. Way to be prompt, Holly. Great job. Getting it wrapped up. We would love to have some dialogue, questions. If you want to put them in a chat, if you want to take yourself off mute, we love doing these programs here at Purdue. Again, we want to, maximize the value for you. If you haven't already, I dropped Holly's LinkedIn profile in the chat box. I also dropped her book. I encourage you, as you just saw, her book is just as phenomenal as she is in person. Go to Amazon. Hey, look at that. Julie's got her. Look at that. How nice is that?
That's awesome.
Man, Julie, look at you. So, any questions that we have in the chat? Why maybe people are thinking or processing, please don't be shy. Feel free to ask a question. But Holly, how as you're working with clients, and again, you work exclusively with, good, nice sized manufacturers. What's some of the feedback? Are you hearing resistance? Are they receptive? What's the pulse as you're talking with manufacturers?
We have actually done a lot of trainings for our point of contact at manufacturing companies are usually manufacturing or marketing specialists in a manufacturing company, maybe VP of marketing and sales, maybe just somebody who needs to outsource part of their marketing or all of their marketing to us, but who's on the hook for results. And a lot of times they're really jazzed to learn about the breadth of AI and where it can also help them in their day-to-day. So some of that might be helping them phrase follow-up emails better if their sales team are handling some of those types of things, helping them punch up copy and working with their current software. So we work a lot in HubSpot. They have a lot of baked in AI tools. So teaching our clients how to maximize those, maybe their HubSpot syncs with their ERP. What are the potentials for leveraging AI intelligence there? That tends to be where we've been talking a lot about clients, is the opportunity to just help them make better decisions and be more efficient, whether it be with some of these things that they're handling. We've done a lot of trainings. My colleague handles the sales side of training and that level of expertise. So we've tag teamed some trainings for clients on using this type of stuff to help them save time. So I don't know if that answered it, but there's been a lot of interest. Not a ton of resistance, mostly just interest in how they can also then use it to save time. Of course, we're transparent about, hey, we've been using AI for this. So now, the estimated time this takes us is less. So we're going to do this additionally with that saved time, like that type of stuff we communicate with them. So of course, that's always of interest too, if we can do more because we're saving time and efficiency here.
Well, excellent. Hey, we've got a question from Katie King. Katie, thank you for joining us here today. When it comes to answering employment candidate questions, what should HR know about using chatbot to handle this? What are your thoughts about that one?
Yeah, so I think one of the important things is no matter what software you're using for a chatbot, making sure that you have that network sort of spec'd out for them and then have AI go from there. So if employee uses this word, this word, this word, we want to direct them to this response, this response, this response. So making sure that the mapping is super intelligent. And then if the responses are AI driven, or even some of the mapping could be AI driven depending on the software you're using, that would be really important. But basically making sure that you have the groundwork covered so that the responses are logical and feeding HR with that, basically what's capable or not capable based on how AI, the chatbot, is fed, so that nothing's coming up where they might be asking about whether it's remote or on-site and, the chatbot's answering, we have an abundance of, we pay a fair salary or whatever it looks like, making sure that those things are mapped as much human-fed or AI-fed as need be, just so that the response is always relevant. I don't know if that was helpful. That's what came to mind for me.
Well, I thought it was great. Katie, feel free to chime back in the chat box, or if you want to, we just had an expert on our live show. I'm sure to keep plugging our live show, but we just had an expert. He about 3 weeks ago and gave a lot of wonderful information about a topic very similar. So again, Katie, thank you for joining us. And Andrew raised his hand. Andrew, happy Thursday. What question do you have for us, our friend?
Okay. Well, first off, thank you so much. Great job here. I've been doing technical marketing for 15 years. So I'm an engineer by trade, but I like marketing. And I'll say it's way harder than engineering. So I've been using ChatGPT 4.0. So I represent a Matrium, so we put security around it. And so I would load my
Cool.
technical files and ask for things like press releases. And it's just genius.
Mhm.
It's just really, really good. So I think there's sort of a paradigm shift, or maybe breaking down silos is a better way to say it, where if marketers had access to the engineering database, the content would be way better for marketing.
Yeah, definitely. And like you're saying, those are the perfect examples of what derivative works are. Like they exist. Most companies have that type of documentation, have those things that exist. And then if you're creating something off of that, you don't have to worry about stuff like plagiarism or inaccuracies, because it's your stuff that you're working with and just getting it to go the extra mile for you. You've already done the hard part. Have GPT do the legwork now. That's a perfect example.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Very
I
cool.
said, it's not only accurate, it's super fast. I mean, like
Yeah.
if it takes more than 30 seconds, I think the system locked up.
Andrew, have you found it a
That's true.
game, with your 15 years experience, have you found it has been a game changer, lifesaver? Like how would you describe your experience?
I would say I always felt I had this big advantage because I'm an engineer and I represent technical companies and the audience is technical. Now, literally, I could train my 15-year-old daughter to do press releases and just give her the documents and say, do this.
Yeah.
And that's a
So
great
cool.
point. So we had an AI expert recently, and exactly to your point, Andrew, she's a solo marketer, team of one, and they just she was to help her unload her workload. They brought in an admin person to help her, and so every time the person needed, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? She was like, it was kind of bogging me down. She would just have that person go to AI. How do I do an H2 tag for SEO? How do I do a meta description? So she used AI almost as her assistant to help her assistant. And so just making her more and more efficient. So, there's so many great ways to take advantage of this. Andrew, thank you. Any other questions or comments that you have, Andrew, from your experience?
No, I would say the other thing is, I shared a video on YouTube, but when people see that, they always say, hey, customer service should also have access to this engineering library because they get the questions and then they have to go interrupt engineers or whatever. So either they could just, because tools are so fast, of course, they could find the answer quickly, it's cited, the citations are there, or you could even automate that and have a person could log in and just get access to whatever they wanted.
Yeah, that's to piggyback on that, Andrew. So a big process that we're doing with MEPs, like our friend here at Purdue, is exactly what you're describing. How, get the engineer, and I think, how you had some different prompts. And so we'll, sit down and interview that engineer. They're the subject matter expert. They're, knocking out the eats, right? Experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And so now you can prompt, hey, what's a question that our soulmate is asking today regarding, like we did an interview this week on a manufacturer that does coffee valves. Who knew that there was like a coffee degassing valve that goes in packaging? Well, there's a person that's an expert on that topic. So what we do is then we just sit there, we interview. So now we're getting authentic information from that person. We use an AI tool called Otter, just like the animal, OTTER. So now we get the full transcription from that engineer. And then you could convert that over to ChatGPT. You can use Claude, like Holly's recommended, and say, hey, take this interview and turn it into a 1,000-word blog post. And so the great way is like that's authentic information from that engineer. I don't know, Holly, what do you think of that process?
I think that sounds amazing. Yeah. And as long as you then have that marketer rereading it before they push it live, I think that that's a really awesome, time efficient, energy efficient, resource efficient way to do something like that. That's perfect.
Yeah. So and then to Holly's point, you could take, say a blog post, then you could strip out, hey, give me 3 LinkedIn posts. And again, you're using your authentic, genuine, original content. It's not going out elsewhere. And I think, Holly, probably one of the biggest takeaways today, proof, right? Proofread. No assumptions. Don't take for granted that, Chat's giving you that original content or information. We're coming into the top of the hour. I want to be respectful of everybody's time for folks that have calls at the top of the hour. Any other questions, comments that you want to share before we close out?
I will
Holly,
just say too, if there's anything that you wanted to ask, but maybe not in front of the group, it's maybe a little bit more company specific, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I love talking about marketing and nerding out about this stuff. So I would love to help point you in the right direction or solve something like that for you. I'd love to hop on the phone and brainstorm. So I know sometimes in settings like this, it's like I have something to ask, but I either feel like maybe I don't want to sound dumb or it's going to give too much away about my company. So if there's something like that, I would be happy to work through that with you and talk through it. Sorry, I did not mean to cut you off, Julie.
no, that was perfect. I was just gonna say thank you to you both. It's been so informative. And I know for me personally, I'm kind of slow to roll into the AI stuff. So I use it as just a creative boost. Like I'll be like, give me 6 reasons someone should implement lean. And I'll find, I'm like, oh, that's a great topic. Let me take that. Let me run with that and develop something off that. So for me, it's just having someone to
Yeah.
bounce ideas off of sometimes. I'm kind of a one-man show. I've got Michelle and a little bit of help too, but it just, when I just need a break and I've kind of run into a block of like, what else can I think of? I use it for that kind of stuff. And of course, that do like headlines and stuff that always just cleans it up, makes it a little tighter. So I just use it for that boost.
Yeah, Holly
Awesome.
gave a lot of great tips as we wind down. Now, first off, before you wrap up for your next call, Holly, we do have a question. So if you can stick around for one more minute, our friend
Yeah,
Dusty put up the
absolutely.
question. But again, if you need to wrap for your upcoming call, strongly encourage you, invite you, welcome you. How about a round of applause for the Purdue MEP? So we've got Michelle, we've got Julie. Connect with Purdue MEP. They just do, they have a team of, 45, 50 strong, just helping manufacturers all throughout the great state of Indiana, helping you with lean, operational excellence. Cyber is a big one. My friend Gene is the expert there. They help with marketing, these wonderful programs here. As a matter of fact, Holly, you're going to be back in August. We're going to be doing a jam session in August, Julie. So that's going to be one of our jam sessions. I'll keep you in a loop there. But Dusty asks, so if you are coming out for a call, thank you. Thank you for our audience for joining. How about a round of applause, Holly, for our audience for hanging out with us today?
Oh,
We
yeah.
appreciate
Thanks,
everybody
everybody.
taking the time to join us.
Yeah.
Dusty says, how do you create larger libraries inside ChatGPT? Custom GPTs allows for 10 to 20 files, I think. Do you have workarounds to create larger libraries to reference when creating content or using ChatGPT to answer quick questions based on library you provided? We can connect offline if that's a deeper dive.
Yeah, so a lot of different ways to go there without knowing so much about your team and things. But there is also the Team GPT option where you can invite other people who you might be collaborating with it is paid into ChatGPT, and you can save different GPTs and different personas there. As you mentioned, there are limitations on the free version with what you can save. And I know a really great person to put you with would be our solutions developer, Zach Hens, and my business partner, Donnie Kemick. They worked on a prompt library database as a way for our team to pull quickly GPTs from based on the limitation of what was inherent to the software. So if you're looking for more of those like technical hacks and workarounds, they are so much smarter than me. I just get to benefit from it and use it. So I don't know if that was helpful, but Team GPT is certainly an option for collaborating and saving things across multiple people who are using ChatGPT within your organization. Yeah, I don't know if that was helpful, but that's what came to mind with your question.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And Dusty, encourage you. I put Holly's LinkedIn in the chat box. I encourage everybody connect. I'd love to connect with everybody here. We'd love for you to connect with Holly, connect with Julie, connect with the friends at Purdue. So yeah, if you guys want to, I think you said nerd out, right? Holly, you enjoy nerding out on these things.
Yeah.
So who doesn't want to nerd out with Holly?
My favorite work
Goodness gracious.
pastime.
That's right. So, all right, before we wrap, any other questions? And if not, again, Holly, thank you. Julie, thank you. Thank you to our crowd, our audience today. We appreciate everybody. You know how busy you are. And we wish everybody stay cool, have an amazing, wonderful summer. We've got 4th of July. We get to celebrate our country's, our anniversary birthday in a couple weeks. So, Julie, anything else that you want to close us out with?
No, just thanks to everyone. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Kurt. We appreciate it. This is wonderful. Thank you.
We appreciate you guys.
Thank
And we'll
you,
have the
Julie.
replay. We'll have the replay going out next week. So guys, thank you. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Keep crushing it. Right, Julie?
Yep, exactly.
We'll see you. Thank you, Holly.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Okay,
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks, Andrew.